Diamond P Sports presents championship drag racing from the National Hot Rod Association. The 1981 Southern Nationals. Brought to you by Goodyear Arriva, a steel-belted radial so new, even its footprint tells you it's different. And by Meguiar's Lifetime Polysealant System, tough polymer protection for your car and a deep, deep shine in one easy step. And by Suzuki the Performer. See the full line of Suzuki motorcycles at your local Suzuki dealer. No other city in the Sun Belt better typifies the rapid growth in the South than Atlanta, Georgia. Gaining in both population and industry, Atlanta is also home base for a wide variety of tourist attractions. The best known, Stone Mountain, bearing one of the world's most famous sculptures. Surrounding the city of Atlanta are the rolling Georgia hills, the pastorally quiet countryside. Except when championship drag racing comes to Atlanta International Raceway. Qualifying has been great for the first annual National Hot Rod Association Southern Nationals Championships. The fastest professional 8-car field in the history of the sport has been set. When you race as hard as this just to make the show, problems can occur. But don't worry, at the Southern Nationals, you can wait until dark to try again. But then you may have even more problems. But an overflow crowd is not jammed into Atlanta International Raceway to watch problems. They want to see the hard-fought battles leading to a champion at the Southern Nationals. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan. Standards of performance are set for every type of competition, and this inaugural Southern Nationals, no exception. In Top Fuel Eliminator, an all 5-second field, tough to beat. In Funny Car, 2 cars under 6 seconds in that magic 5-second zone, a new track record in Pro Stock. Working with me is Steve Evans, and he's got a further report on all the action.
The Deep South has waited a long, long time for their first ever NHRA National Championship event. And what a treat this crowd is going to get here today outside of Atlanta. These are the quickest ever 8-car pro fields, and ironically, all 3 of them are led by Texans. In Top Fuel, Mike Tarter qualifying low for the first time in his career. In Funny Car from Dallas, the Blue Max, and apparently their problems of the last few months are over. In Pro Stock, well, it's Lee Shepard, again proving that Bob Glidden at least can be out-qualified. If there's anything louder here today than the Funny Cars and the Fuelers, it's going to be this crowd.
Thank you, Steve. And this crowd has reserved one of its greatest ovations for one of the superstars of the sport, 2-time Top Fuel world champion Shirley Muldowney. We'll be joining her and the rest of the professionals of championship drag racing in just a moment as we begin coverage of the Southern Nationals. The huge crowd jammed into Atlanta Raceway for the Southern Nationals, getting ready for the start of Top Fuel Racing. 8 quickest cars qualified for this field to start the first round of eliminations, heading to a purse topping $11,000. Here we see the low qualifier, Mike Tarter out of Houston, Texas, driving Mike Himes' dragster. He'll be racing against the U.S. Nationals champion, Terry Kapp from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Jeb Allen, the quickest man in the history of drag racing from Long Beach, California, will be going off against a former national champion, Marvin Graham. The runner-up at the Gator Nationals, Jody Smart, hopes to continue his winning ways, particularly in the first round against Frank Bradley from California. The 2-time Top Fuel world champion, Shirley Muldowney, calls Mount Clemens, Michigan home. She'll be racing against a rising star from Bakersfield, California, Doug Kerhulis. We're back into the action, starting off first round of eliminations in Top Fuel Eliminator. The near lane is the U.S. Nationals champion, the wheeler dealer from Canada. That's Terry Kapp. His competition is the low qualifier, Mike Tarter out of Houston, Texas. Mike recorded a 5:76 elapsed time to take that #1 spot. Before the first round started, he had some problems, and Steve asked him about them.
You told me earlier, Mike, that you have a slight motor problem. If you can get by Terry Kapp in the first round, is it something you can repair?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something we don't have 30 minutes to fix right now. We're going to have to try it. We didn't really notice it till just now, so we are concerned.
Showing the pressure is Mike Tarter, and it's going to be plenty tough against Terry Kapp because he is one of the strongest competitors here at the Southern Nationals. And you saw, there it was, Mike Tarter jumping the start. He got a red light, and the pressure just got to him. He knew something was probably wrong with the car. Terry Kapp, a very easy run, only 5.99 seconds elapsed time at over 220 miles an hour. Mike Tarter taking the early turn off as he just coasted through. He couldn't wait. Terry Kapp on this hot Georgia day, climbing out of his car, trying to catch a bit of the breeze as the turnaround crew pushes him off. Next pair, it'll be Jeb Allen against Marvin Graham. Jeb sitting in as his crewman starts, and there's a fire on the engine, and Jeb Allen waving some help over. He either sees it or feels it or just anticipates. They just blow it out. It's probably gasoline. They use gasoline in a little squirt jar, squirt it into the injectors, then spin the motor over using the supercharger to drive it. Jeb just shakes his head and said, what next could go wrong? But it looks like there's no problem. As Jeb Allen gets it started, his crewman says, let's go to the starting line. And the quickest man in the history of the sport comes to the starting line at Atlanta Raceway. He's racing against Marvin Graham, who'll be in the far lane. Steve's now caught up with Terry Kapp, the winner of that first round race.
He red-lighted Terry.
Yeah.
Were you aware that he had a motor problem?
No, well, I was aware he had a motor problem as before the parade, he left, and they said he had an oiler. But when his car started, everything was fine. Like, I looked over and all the holes were firing and sounded extremely good. But he red lit so early, I took it through low gear just to make sure it had low gear again, and then I clicked her off.
It ran 590s in low gear?
I just hit high gear, just put it in high gear. So I took it through low gear, hit high gear, shut it off.
The national champion, Terry Kapp, looking forward already to the second round race as Marvin Graham heads to the starting line. Before Jeb set that 5.62 second time down at Gainesville at the Gator Nationals, you saw it on your Diamond P Sports coverage. Marvin Graham had recorded a 5.68. This made these two racers the quickest men in the history of the sport in the past 5 years. Jeb Allen ever, and it is Marvin Graham crossing the center line. He's out of competition. What a close race it was, but it was Marvin Graham going across the center line, and that means automatic disqualification. Watch, they leave the line together, and it appears at this point that Marvin has just a little bit of an advantage. He drifts towards the center line. You think he's going to correct, but he does just a hair too late. The rear wheel crossing the center line, and it's a dejected Marvin Graham getting out of his fire suit and looking at his car. Not happy at all, I can assure you there. Marvin Graham and his partner, Mark Danicus. But for Jeb Allen, the 26-year-old superstar, he started this sport at the age of 18 with his first major win. His dad helping him off with his fire suit. Jeb Allen advances to round number 2. Talking about Diamond P Sports coverage, you saw Jody Smart finish in the runner-up spot down at Gainesville at the Gator Nationals just about a month ago. He's racing Frank Bradley from Napa, California, here in the first round at the Southern Nationals. Both cars leaving the line. Frank Bradley with a bit of the lead. Boy, this is a close race in the middle of the course, and it is Jody Smart just pulling it out from behind. A quick time, 5.84 seconds. His speed over 241 miles an hour. There you see Frank Bradley with a bit of a lead, but he starts to drift towards that center line. He may have lifted, I don't know, but it took him a little bit of time to pull it back into the proper posture headed towards that finish line, and that may have been just enough to let Jody Smart get ahead. A tenth of a second separating him at the finish line.
Well, Jody Smart picks up here in Atlanta where he left off in Florida a month ago, but you were a little late on the line. It made that race closer than it should have been.
Awful late, Steve. Can't be doing that the rest of the day. It'll hurt us. Going to have to be right there for the rest of the race. I was real late.
And for Frank Bradley, his racing day is over, but a fine 5.94 second elapsed time. Absolutely no shame in being defeated by Jody Smart, one of the great ones. When you talk about greats in Top Fuel, this has to be the premier Top Fuel racer today. She is the two-time world champion. She's probably the only person known that could run a single name on the side of her race car, and everybody knows who she is, Shirley. None other than Shirley Muldowney. She has won them all. She has defeated the men at the best of their game, and she is continuing to do so, as evidenced by a win down at the Gator Nationals. Shirley doing her burnout. The burnout designed to heat up the tires prior to her run against Doug Kerhulis in this first round racing at the Southern Nationals. Let's watch in slow motion what happens to that tire. She rolls out of the water, and that's all it is, just plain water to help get the tire spinning. It spins very rapidly, it burns, it smokes, and boy, it's getting hot. And of course, both cars do the burnouts. This one driven by Doug Kerhulis, and Doug's got quite a problem on his hands. That problem, of course, is Shirley Muldowney. Earlier, we asked Doug, what's it like to drive against Shirley?
Well, I'll tell you what, she's so consistent on the starting line, and Ron Tolber's got that thing running excellent. The only thing is we both leave the starting line fairly well, I'd say. You know, we're good leavers, so my main concern is not to let her get out on me. You know, I have definitely got to leave with her or on her to have a chance to win the race.
Doug, that's one of the most difficult tasks in all of motorsports, that of leaving on Shirley Muldowney in Top Fuel Racing. The burnouts are all completed, all the preparations are finished. It's now up to the car and the driver to see who gets to the finish line first. Both now staged, ready to go. And off the starting line, it appears to be side by side. Doug Kerhulis moves towards the center line. That may have cost him the race. Shirley Muldowney with a lot of smoke out of the engine, indicating some damaged pistons, but she won it, and that's what counts. 5.89 seconds, the speed 238 miles an hour. As we watch again, watch Doug Kerhulis' car. It drifts towards the center line just like Marvin Graham. It's almost a repeat of the Marvin Graham race, except Doug Kerhulis corrected, kept it away from the center line in disqualification, but at that time, Shirley Muldowney came past him and was not to be headed to the finish line. Look how close it was. Shirley Muldowney 5.89, Doug Kerhulis 5.91, 0.02 of a second separating Shirley Muldowney from Kerhulis. In the semifinals, Terry Kapp against Jody Smart, Shirley Muldowney against Jeb Allen. We're back at the Southern Nationals at Atlanta Raceway near Atlanta, Georgia, and girls come with blonde hair and blue eyes and freckles down here in the northern Georgia part of this world. They come in all sizes, too. We got little ones, and we got big ones, and we got ones big enough to drive race cars. As Steve talked to the two-time world champion, Shirley Muldowney.
You know, you and I have talked a lot, and I know you have great respect for the abilities of young Jeb Allen. How do you feel now going here in the second round against Jeb?
Just like any other driver, he doesn't bother me one bit. He can be beat just like anyone else. But then again, I'm in that class, too. So I think it'll be an awfully good drag race, and they said Gainesville was the greatest. I think this racetrack's better.
Well, that sort of sets the stage for the next round of Top Fuel Racing as far as Shirley is concerned, but right now at the Southern Nationals, it's funny car time. Those fiberglass-bodied creations with the 2,000-plus horsepower engines that have become such crowd favorites. Let's take an opportunity to meet the drivers in this first round of competition. It'll be Raymond Beadle from Dallas, Texas at the wheel of the Blue Max. He is against one of the toughest ever competitors, Don the Snake Prudhomme from Granada Hills, California. Trip Shoemake drives Johnny Loper's car. They come from Phoenix, Arizona to match up against Paul Smith. He calls Hobie Sound, Florida home. Billy Myers started in funny car racing at the age of 16 out of Waco, Texas. And Kenny Bernstein, now living in Dallas, dropped out of the sport for about 6 years, but he's come back strong. From Easton, Massachusetts, Al Segrini. He's matched against the grand old man of funny car racing, Cheryl Greer, a hometown boy from Warner Robins, Georgia. In the first round, the first matchup will find the two men that have held the world champion title for the past 6 years. That's right, over the past 6 years, no other racer other than these two have won a world champion title in funny car racing. Don Prudhomme held the title for 4 consecutive years. Then 2 seasons ago, Raymond Beadle, driving the Blue Max, took it away. The second year, Raymond Beadle repeated as the world champion. He reigns with that title right now. In the first round, they're meeting each other. We asked Raymond, who's his toughest competitor?
Well, Snake's definitely we always think it's our toughest competitor, and like we try real hard against him, and he tries real hard against us. Last night we just had a situation where we would have ran him if we hadn't qualified better, and afterwards, when we went to number 1, well, he went to number 5, so we still run him. So we were in a no-win situation.
Well, it's going to be hard to tell. During the heat of the day, during qualifying periods that we've had, our car has run quicker than their car has. In the evening, the way their car is set up with a nice cool air, it showed that they like cool air. And we are thinking that perhaps today they could have a problem of dropping cylinders, having problems with their engine, not performing in the heat, and we think our car can perform quite well.
Well, at this point, the talking is over, and it will be decided in just a few seconds. And it is Raymond Beadle out first. There goes Prudhomme towards that center line. He drives away. Beadle's car smoking, and it is Don Prudhomme with the win and the upset, as Beadle had been the low qualifier at 5.96 seconds. The qualifying doesn't count, as Prudhomme told us in the interview, and Prudhomme is the winner. The next round will be finding Trip Shoemake against this man, Paul Smith. And apparently some problems inside the car. It's a brand new race car, qualified very well here. The crew going inside the car must have been some type of shifting linkage problem. Generally, when you see the crew going in the windows of a funny car, that's what it is. Trip Shoemake sitting very patiently as all the work is completed on Paul Smith's car, and they both approach the starting line, ready to challenge each other and this quarter-mile racing service at Atlanta Raceway. Paul Smith's car totally unlettered, except for the number 10, indicating his finishing position in last season's World Championship. Shoemake with the big lead, and Paul Smith heads towards the guardrail. He has to shut it off, and Shoemake nipping a few pistons, but look at the time. 6.10, a 6:10 elapsed time. That's the amount of time it takes to travel the quarter of a mile from a standing start. Shoemake with a big lead, but Paul Smith already into trouble as the car drifts out towards the guardrail, and right there he has to lift away from it, gives the win to Shoemake, who's with Steve Evans right now.
Well, it's fun to see you down here for a change in a favorites role.
Oh, man, I tell you, it's been a long time coming. I'm tired now. Well, it's good to be here.
You're in 6:10, but it sounds like you cooked it to do it.
Well, we did. We ran that 5.98 last night, and we cooked at 10, but I'd rather go home with burned up pieces and go home a loser, Got plenty of tin soldiers where those came from, let me tell you.
Okay, we'll see you down here in round 2.
Okay.
As Trip Shoemake and his crew heads back to the pit area to start work on their car, crew chief Ray Alley lining up Kenny Bernstein out of Dallas, Texas, into his own tracks after the burnout. The purpose of the burnout, in addition to heating the tires, is to lay down a lot of rubber to provide a good, tight racing surface so these huge slicks can get the traction they need to put these cars through the quarter mile in elapsed times of under 6 seconds. Kenny Bernstein in the near lane. His competition is Billy Meyer. Meyer out of Waco, Texas, started his racing career at the tender age of 16. He is 25 years old today, and he's driven nothing but funny cars. That's right, at 16, he started his racing career coming out of go-karts and jumping right straight into a nitro-burning funny car. He is one of the best today. Here you see Kenny Bernstein with a bit of a lead at this point as Billy Meyer goes up into smoke. He heads towards the center line, causes some problems, and Ray Alley's wife very, very happy with Kenny Bernstein's big win because he recorded 6.08 second elapsed time, and his speed was a blistering 242 miles an hour. Billy Meyer smoking the tires, the car getting out of control. It heads towards the center line, and that's all for Billy Meyer. For Kenny, a big win.
Well, Kenny, based now on average elapsed times, you look like the favorite.
Well, you know how that goes, Steve. The favorites come and go in a hurry, but we're into the second round, and that's a start, and now we'll go back and fix her up. We nipped her a little bit and try it again.
Well, now the bad news. You race the snake next round.
Sure, yeah. Well, we're on the good side of the ladder. We had Billy, Prudhomme or Beadle, and the final, whoever the other side is, but we had the bad guys. Let's put it that way. It was Beadle, Prudhomme, Billy, and me on the same side of the ladder.
So you look ahead. A lot of people try not to do that.
Oh, I think that's in their minds. I like to know who's coming up next, even if there's a chance, right?
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see. You were the snake down here in round 2.
That'll be it. Thank you.
And obviously elated Kenny Bernstein as we get ready for the last race of this round of funny cars. In the far lane, the Sting of Larry Kugel, driven by Cheryl Greer, while here in the near lane, it is Al Segrini at the wheel of this beautiful green machine. But when you're in Atlanta, all eyes are in the far lane on Cheryl Greer. He's from Warner Robins, Georgia, just down the road a piece. He's just moved into the driving chores of this car, and Cheryl Greer is the 1974 world champion. He admits to being at least 39 years of age. We say he's the grand old man of funny cars, and he qualified very well in Larry Kugel's car to match up against Al Segrini here in the first round of racing. Leaving the line together and up in smoke, and out of control goes Al Segrini, almost into the guardrail. And what a tragedy that would have been. Segrini just about wore the new off of that one, but he brought it back under control. He lost it right off the starting line. Cheryl Greer, a fine time at 6.18 seconds, but I can tell you, all eyes switched very quickly over to Segrini, as when he came off the starting line, the tires instantly starting to smoke. He loses control right there and has the presence of mind to shut it off and bring it back into a straight line. In the semifinals, it'll be Kenny Bernstein against Don Prudhomme, Trip Shoemake going against Cheryl Greer. We're at the Southern Nationals at Atlanta Raceway near Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and there's some real action in the Trip Shoemake pit area. You remember he said he had blown an engine. Well, the new one hanging on the hook's worth about $15,000 to $17,000. They're taking the old one out. Meantime, Steve Evans is in the Al Segrini pit area.
At each NHRA national event this year, the McGuire's Wax and Polish Company presents a Best Appearing Car Award. Here at the Southern Nationals, that honor goes to Al Segrini's Super Brute from Boston. And the judges are using words to describe this car you don't usually hear around the track. Classy, they're calling it. Elegant. And I'll tell you what, this whole operation just reeks of quality. This is the best appearing car.
And our congratulations to Al Segrini and his whole crew as we get set to go into pro stock racing, the kings of the factory hot rods. Let's take a look at some of the drivers from Reno, Nevada. We have got the Ewell brothers with Mark Ewell at the wheel. He'll be racing Frank Iaconio from Totowa, New Jersey. Warren Johnson comes from Fridley, Minnesota, and he's driving an Oldsmobile against the number 3 qualifier. That's Bob Glidden, the reigning world champion. John Hagan from St. Paul, Minnesota, is driving a Hemi Mopar against Dino Don Nicholson and his Ford. Lee Shepard, of course, the number 1 qualifier, driving the Rare and Morrison Camaro, comes from Arlington, Texas, and it'll be Lee Shepard against the Wayne County Speed Shop car, David Hutchins at the wheel. And a big red light for David Hutchins. He rolled just a second too soon, and it is an easy go for Lee Shepard. He's not about ready to back out of it. His elapsed time, 8.54 seconds. His speed, 157 miles an hour. Back at the starting line, you'll see it. It is the red light glowing there in the circle, and that indicates a disqualification for David Hutchins. Another beautiful Chevrolet Camaro. This, the Ewell brothers, Mark Ewell at the wheel. Ewell going up against Frank Iaconio. He drives another Chevrolet from Totowa, New Jersey. These cars are actual cars coming off a factory assembly line, but a tremendous amount of modifications to them. Their engines can run on gasoline only. They can run on carburetors only. And when you consider they qualified at speeds of upwards of 160 miles an hour, tremendous performance out of these hot rods. And Frank Iaconio with a big lead off the starting line, extending it in the middle of the course, never catch him. Mark Ewell down to defeat at the hands of Frank Iaconio, 8.53 seconds, 100th of a second quicker than Lee Shepard. Here is the new Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson to race against the reigning world champion, Bob Glidden. Johnson debuting this all Oldsmobile Starfire here at the Southern Nationals. Qualified well, but he's racing the number 3 qualifier in this first round of competition. And Bob Glidden is a tough one to beat. Johnson trying to stay with him in the middle of the course. He seems to be hanging in there, but it's over a car length at the finish line. Low elapsed time of the round thus far, 8.50 for Bob Glidden. Our final pairing, the matchup between the Plymouth Arrow with a Hemi engine of John Hagan against Dino Don Nicholson. Nicholson at the age of 52 is still a factor to be reckoned with here in pro stock competition. Steve has had a chance to catch up with Bob Glidden and talk to him about strategy.
You get the world champion's door open here. We'll chat with him for just a second. Bob, you let him have you in qualifying, but now you step up with the low AT of the round, 850.
Well, we messed around in qualifying trying to get between Shepard and Iaconio, and it backfired on us. We ended up third, but we'll just have to do the best we can do.
You mean you didn't want number one, you wanted number two?
Well, I wanted Shepard and Iaconio to have to run the next round, and now as it is, I have to run Shepard. That's not the way we wanted it, but that's the way it is.
Back at the starting line, the final race of this first round of Pro Stock competition. It is the Plymouth Arrow of John Hagan going against the Ford Mustang of Dino Don Nicholson. Nicholson's quite a story. He won his first national championship, the Winter Nationals, way back in 1961, and he is still a force to be reckoned with, and you saw it right there, the hole shot he put on John Hagan. It's going to be close at the finish line, but it is Nicholson hanging on for the win, 8.69 seconds, his speed 155 miles an hour. Let's go back and watch again. Dino Don Nicholson, you see him right there. He's leaving the line before Hagan ever thinks about letting the clutch out. And I'll tell you, that's going to be tough to beat at the finish line. You saw him holding on for a win of about a car length. The times show how close it really was, 8.69 seconds at 155 miles an hour for Nicholson. In the semifinals, it'll be Shepard against Glidden, Iaconio against Dino Don. Nicholson putting away his helmet and his driving gloves, talking to John Hagan, getting ready to go back. Headed to the pit area to prepare for the next round of competition. In addition to the professional categories that we've been covering here today, a number of other champions crowned at the Southern Nationals. In stock eliminator, it's Don Holben against Bud Rowe. Holben, a 30-year-old computer company owner, drove his station wagon into the winner's circle for the second time, winning some $3,500 in the process. Superstock eliminator pitted Charlie Taylor against Dave Brunn. Taylor out of Lumberton, North Carolina, was the second win for his career, a previous 80 Gator Nationals victory, $8,000 going to Taylor. Larry Kopp in the Opel GT and modified eliminator put this Opel GT in the finals for the third time this season and won this time as Eddie Conrad of Houston, Texas crossed the center line. Larry Kopp winning some $10,000 in modified eliminator. In competition eliminator, it's a pair of Southerners, Ricky Clark out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Steve Green from Belle Chase, Louisiana, and the 26-year-old sod farmer from Mississippi in the Roadster won $11,000 when he won the Southern Nationals competition eliminator title. Top alcohol funny car finals pitted Jerry Gwynn from Miami, Florida against Ace Manzo. But Gwynn, unable to make the run, gave an easy single to Frank Manzo to take home the Top Alcohol Funny Car title. In Top Alcohol Dragster, a rematch of the Gator Nationals. Chet Ricard in the far lane. In the near lane, it was Joe Amato. And what a close race in Top Alcohol Dragster as Joe Amato, the 36-year-old auto warehouse owner, repeated his Gator Nationals championship by just a few inches at the finish line to defeat Chet Ricard. Some of the most exotic two-wheel equipment you will ever find are on the drag strips of America today. Top Fuel motorcycles. In the far lane on the Suzuki, it is Terry Vance, the reigning Pro Stock motorcycle champion. In the near lane, Jim Bernard on a Yamaha. And it's Bernard up near the guardrail. He's using the body English to pull him away. He stays away from it, but the win goes to Terry Vance, somewhat slower than his previous runs, but that doesn't matter. Terry Vance has just won his first ever Top Fuel motorcycle title. Diamond P Sports congratulates all the Sportsman Eliminator champions here at the Southern Nationals. Terry Vance and Jim Bernard coasting to a stop at the end of the racetrack, and is Terry Vance pumped up? You see him right there telling everybody, hey, I just won. Cyril Greer in the pit area working hard, though, because he's got a semifinal matchup, and it can be a tough one because he's got to go against the man that has had some exceptionally fine elapsed times, Trip Shoemake at the wheel of Johnny Loper's car. They're buttoning up that brand new engine, getting it ready to go in this semifinal round of racing. Over in the dragster pits in Shirley Muldowney's pit area, son John owning the cylinder walls on that racing engine. Meantime, Steve's over with Shirley's competition.
All right, you go to the starting line to race Shirley Muldowney. What are your thoughts on racing Shirley here today?
Well, Shirley ain't going to cut us any slack, you know. We're both top contenders. Ben have since the first of the year. We won the Winter Nationals. She got the Gator Nationals. We got a little more power to go. We're not hurting our motor at all like we did at the Winter Nationals. So we're going to put some more power in it, and I think the racetrack will come around a little bit with the cars running on it and the heat getting in it. And we should run real good. Give her a race for her money.
As Jeb Allen gets ready for his race for the money, a Georgia Peach is having a great time here at the Southern Nationals. We'll be back with the professional semifinal racing in just a moment. Atlanta Raceway near Atlanta, Georgia, hosting the first ever NHRA Southern Nationals, and this huge crowd in anticipation of the semifinal round of racing. In Pro Stock Eliminator, it is that classic matchup between the factory hot rods of Ford and Chevrolet. Bob Glidden at the wheel of the Ford Fairmont. Lee Shepard wheeling the Rare & Morrison Camaro, the Chevrolet from Arlington, Texas. Number 1 and number 2 in the world last season. Bob Glidden, the defending and reigning world champion. Both cars coming into those staging beams ever so carefully. The start all important to both drivers, and it's a red light for Bob Glidden. The win automatically to Lee Shepard. He's in the finals of the Southern Nationals. Bob Glidden shuts it down early. He knew he had lost just as soon as he left the starting line and left that red light showing. For Lee Shepard, a fine run, 8.49 seconds, 159 miles an hour. On the starting line, another Ford versus Chevrolet battle. Frank Iaconio against this man, 52-year-old Dino Don Nicholson. Winning his first ever championship in '61, Steve Evans is with Lee Shepard.
I want just a couple of seconds of your time. Did you see what happened up there?
Yeah, he red lighted.
You sure did.
I think he did the same thing I did at the last race. Rolled through the lights. I saw him rolling over there.
I mean, the brake's not quite holding?
Right. Looked like that's what he did. It's pretty easy to do. A lot of drivers do that.
Back on the starting line, Dino Don Nicholson in the near lane, Frank Iaconio in the far lane. Both concentrating on the starting line. And Nicholson beginning to drift out towards the guardrail. He's getting out of the track while Frank Iaconio goes straight and true, and Nicholson's got troubles. Boy, he gets close to the guardrail. And Nicholson pulling it back in as the Ford Mustang slowing down. And something going wrong for Dino Don Nicholson. For Frank Iaconio, it was an easy victory, but a hair-raising ride for Dino Don. You can see as we look again how close he came to the guardrail, pulling it out, the cloud of dust behind him as he got over into the loose stuff near the guardrail. Dino Don Nicholson bringing the car to a safe stop. He's sitting in there wondering what on earth could have gone wrong. Steve's now got Frank Iaconio.
Where do you go? Did you hear? You seem a good deal calmer than your opponent who we just talked to in the final round, Shepard.
I might look like that on the outside, but it's not on the inside.
Okay, I want to let you go back to the pits, and we look forward to a great race between two Chevrolets, one from New Jersey and one from Texas.
Word has it from the NHRA Safety Safari, it was a broken suspension component that caused Nicholson's problem. Back on the starting line, semifinal racing in funny car, and there's only one car running. Back in the background, the bright yellow body held in the air by the crewman. That's Don the Snake Prudhomme, and he's supposed to be doing these burnouts too. But something's gone wrong. He can't get the car to start. Kenny Bernstein finalizing all of his pre-starting procedures while Don Prudhomme sits and watches it happen. They have not yet been able to fire Prudhomme's car. A lot of problems for the Snake, and this very rarely happens. There comes the word from the starting line official. It will be a single, and Kenny Bernstein will be attempting to set low elapsed time, trying to get lane choice for the finals. And he's got a great run going, just screaming down the asphalt. Bernstein 6.07 seconds at over 242 miles an hour. Don Prudhomme, he is not a happy man at this moment as they start taking the car back into the pits. But for Kenny Bernstein, after 242 miles an hour, he stopped quick.
Kenny, I don't believe I've ever seen a funny car run as quick as 6:07 as you did and stop so fast. What happened?
Well, she hurt her pretty bad, and it filled the inside of the compartment, the driving compartment, with oil. It came all over the windshield and everything, and when you do those type of things, you know it's hurt, Steve, and you just don't want to go too further in case there's a fire or something, so I got right after it. Of course, I use 2 parachutes. That helps a lot. Most people use 1, but when she's hurt like that and it comes up inside, she's hurt. You don't want any fires, so stop her. It's time to park it.
The next pair will match Cheryl Greer driving Larry Kugel's Sting against Johnny Loper's car driven by Trip Shoemake. And this Shoemake operation, a whole family affair. Wife Susie out directing traffic. And of course, the apple of their eye is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty named Heather.
Who do you think's going to win this drag race?
Daddy.
Daddy is? Does Daddy let you do anything on the car? Do you get to help? What do you do?
I help him back the parachute.
Help pack the parachute. That's an important job. Well, I think Heather's motto is best put right here, Dave. It says, I love racing. You do, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, good luck to you and your daddy.
If I'm bad, he spanks me.
Is she something?
Something she is, Steve. That's Heather Shoemake, the daughter of Trip and Susie Shoemake. Trip encased in the roll cage of Johnny Loper's car. Here in the near lane, it's Cheryl Greer driving for Larry Kugel in the far lane. The winner of this goes into the finals against Kenny Bernstein. Up in smoke goes Cheryl Greer, and down that racetrack is Trip Shoemake. That's the brand new engine. Remember, we watched him put it in 6.20 seconds. Running over the grease sweep left after the exploding engine of Kenny Bernstein on the previous run. It'll mean Bernstein will have the lane choice over Trip Shoemake in the finals, but this is a drag race that nobody can be counted out until the racing's over. Semifinal top fuel eliminator, Jody Smart and J.E. Christick in the near lane. The U.S. Nationals champion, Terry Kapp in the far lane. And something going wrong for Jody Smart. A bit of smoke off the tires for Terry Kapp, and he wins it. 6.01 seconds, 234 miles an hour. Something breaking for Jody Smart right off the starting line. A tough break for a great racer.
Well, with your kind of performance, you certainly don't need luck, but you've had it here today so far.
That's it. Some days you got it, some days you haven't. We sometimes really need the luck, and we can't even find it, and today we're running fairly well, and we're happy, and we're getting the breaks.
Okay, analyze the racetrack for me. It looked like maybe you smoked the tires.
Yeah, I almost did last time, and we laid a couple of black stripes down the track about 600 feet, and we were kind of concerned about it this time, so we took some power out of it and put a pile of wing on it. As you can see, the wing is almost like a barn door. I don't think that was quite good enough.
Certainly not. Is the track going away maybe a little bit
I
in the
think
heat?
it's balling up a little bit, yeah. Mind you, we ran at the same times yesterday, so we're okay. We got one left. We're ready.
All righty. Let's go back to Dave McClellan on the starting line and see who faces Terry Kapp in the final round.
Well, Steve, it will be the winner of this next race, Shirley Muldowney or Jeb Allen. Shirley is riding a hot streak. She won the Gator Nationals just about a month ago down in Gainesville, Florida, and it was on the same track that this man established the lowest elapsed time in the history of the sport, 5.62 seconds ET for Jeb Allen. Everybody on their feet here at Atlanta Raceway, watching intently on the starting line as headed down track. Both Shirley and Jeb concentrating on the tree, and Shirley is beginning to pull a bit of a lead. She continues to pull away at the finish line and wins it with a 5.97 second elapsed time. Her speed, 236 miles an hour. As we watch again, it is Shirley against Jeb. A bit of smoke off of Jeb's tires at that point, and that's just about the moment that Shirley moved into the lead. She continued to hold on, in fact, extended it just a little bit, but this is what they call close drag racing. 5.97 seconds, 6 seconds flat for Jeb Allen at over 241 miles an hour.
One of the real close races of the day in Top Fuel Eliminator, Dave, and Jeb Allen comes over to Shirley and says, been a long time since we've raced. Been a long time since Shirley's beat him. Jeb says his car shook real hard. Shirley Muldowney came up here and said, Steve, I didn't red light, did I? No, she didn't. A good driving job by one of the best in the business. A close race, 300ths difference.
I think he was a little bit late on the light, but I was worried about the horsepower that Jeb makes. He makes a lot of horsepower.
You have lane choice. That may be important. It appears that right lane may be a little edgy.
What did I run?
597.
Did I really? Okay, I think we can better that, hopefully. I don't know, Steve. I think Ron will, I think you'll stay with the same lane.
Okay.
I think the racetrack's great.
All right, we'll see you in the final against Terry Kapp, Shirley.
Nobody's leaving Atlanta Raceway as we get set for the final races at the Southern Nationals. the Kenny Bernstein pit area, a beehive of activity as they're installing a brand new engine. Kenny blew the other one to smithereens, put a hole in each side of the block, so it's a new bullet being installed for the final race against Trip Shoemake. On the starting line, it is Pro Stock Eliminator, a pair of Chevrolets. Lee Shepard, the #1 qualifier, driving the Rare and Morrison car against Frank Iaconio. From the starting line, side by side, down the quarter-mile Atlanta Raceway surface, Shepard beginning to pull away, and about a car length difference at the finish line. 8.48 seconds for Lee Shepard. We watch again, you see 1 car length. That's all that separates them. Let's go to Steve.
Well, with the kind of performances we've seen today from Lee Shepard, the #2 in his window might go down 1 digit to #1 before this season's over.
Well, I sure hope so, Steve. We're sure trying for it this year.
What happened on the starting line?
Well, we both got a good leave, and it was pretty neck and neck all the way till high gear, and we just pulled him a little bit in high gear.
Funny car finals. Kenny Bernstein, he's been here before and won at the '79 Cajun Nationals Championship. His competition, Trip Shoemake, has not won a national event title. He's knocked on the door several times. The 32-year-old Phoenix, Arizona driver wants this one badly. They've done an awful lot of work, that Johnny Loper crew, but of course, so is Bernstein. It takes a lot of work to win in championship drag racing, regardless of the category. All the work comes down to these final few seconds, though, when these cars leave the starting line and head for the finish line. Boy, they couldn't be closer off the starting line. In the middle of the course, it's anybody's race, and it's Trip Shoemake winning his first ever national championship. Susie Shoemake just overjoyed. That's her jumping around with the crew. And as we watch again, you see how it happened. Trip Shoemake and Kenny Bernstein, you can't tell them apart at this moment. And for Trip Shoemake, just the final few feet is what counts. He begins to burn some pistons, it doesn't matter, and Heather's daddy wins the big one.
I've seen you more excited after a first-round win. I don't think you've totally accepted this yet.
I'm burnt out, man. We changed motors and everything. Got to run Bernstein. He's a bad Jose, boy, I tell you. I'm just glad to be here.
Well, you ran good, too, like 6:07?
Is that what I ran? Yeah. I didn't know that. They couldn't hand me the time card. I went by the lights too quick.
Well, it was 1/100th of a second between you, so you must have left good.
All right. Yeah. That's good.
And here is daughter Heather and his beautiful wife Susie. Hi, Heather. She said earlier today, she says, my daddy kisses me a lot.
Where's that old man Loper? He's a tough one.
Johnny Loper, the car owner from Phoenix, Arizona, who has backed this young man for so many years. And as I said before, they always had the parts and the ability and the desire, but it just never came their way. Congratulations to all of you. Wonderful moment down here as Trip Shoemake wins his first ever national event, the Southern Nationals.
Steve, our congratulations to the whole Shoemake family and to Johnny Loper, as here it is, Top Fuel Finals. The world champion, Shirley Muldowney, against the national champion, the wheeler-dealer, Terry Cap, from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Atlanta, Georgia, their meeting ground. And in just a few seconds, we'll know who will be the first ever NHRA Southern Nationals Top Fuel champion. Shirley taking the left-hand lane, the lane nearest the camera. She feels it maybe just a little bit better. She had the choice. Boy, Terry Cap was a whole lot late. And it is so close at the finish. The crew knows it by the wind lights. Shirley Muldowney wins it 5.95 seconds. Her speed over 234 miles an hour. But for Terry Cap, it was a very expensive driving lesson, as he recorded an elapsed time that was quicker. Each lane a separate racetrack as far as the timing devices go, and you'll see Shirley Muldowney winning it by 0.04 of a second. Really something, Steve.
I know, the lady did it again. The most incredible reflexes in the sport of Top Fuel drag racing. But what's so astounding, and I have to repeat it again, she has now won 4 out of the last 5 NHRA National Championship events. The only one she missed, the opening race this year, the Winter Nationals. David, a lot of excitement down here, but it's winding down. Shirley Muldowney now concludes this first inaugural NHRA Southern Nationals with a beautiful hole-shot victory over the national champion, Terry Cap.
We've seen some of the closest side-by-side racing ever in this inaugural NHRA Southern Nationals from Atlanta Raceway. We'd like to offer a special congratulations to Trip Shoemake and his entire family on their first big win. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Atlanta. The 1981 Southern Nationals has been brought to you by Suzuki, the Performer. See the full line of Suzuki motorcycles at your local Suzuki dealer. And by Fram, makers of oil, air, and fuel filters, windshield wipers, and Autolite spark plugs. And by Goodyear Arriva, a steel-belted radial so new even its footprint tells you it's different. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by Datsun. Own the new Datsun Turbo 280ZX and you own the road. Goes from 0 to 50 in 5.1 seconds. Now that's awesome and then some. And by Brute. Today's your Brute day. Great days seem to happen more often when you're wearing Brute by Fabergé. After shave, after shower, after anything, Brute by Fabergé. Additional consideration provided for and a fee paid by...
I'm very handy thanks to 3-in-1 oil. It fights rust, lubricates, stops squeaks. 3-in-1 oil is so easy, even you guys can use it. I do home repairs with plastic wood. I fixed my chair, molded my baseboard, built holes in my wall. Plastic wood is so easy, even you guys can use it.
And by Datsun. Own the new Datsun Turbo 280ZX and you own the road. Goes from 0 to 50 in 5.1 seconds. Now that's awesome and then some. The executive producer of Diamond P Sports is Harvey Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Coverage of the 1981 National Hot Rod Association Southern Nationals is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.